I came down on orders that I was going to go as the chief of the Rapid Equipping Force to go to Afghanistan. And I thought, terrific. If this stuff is working, I'd love to be on the ground as it's wrapped up. I'm thinking if Petraeus is telling the truth, and why wouldn't he? He's a four-star general talking to Congress under oath.
I
Naturally,
can give you lots of reasons why, but okay.
yeah, I'll provide them myself here in a minute. But at the time, I thought, you can't lie, on something that brazen. So it must be true. I mean, I didn't even hardly think about it. I thought, well, if he's telling the truth and they have all these metrics, then okay, I want to be part of wrapping this thing up and seeing a successful conclusion, the war come to an end, Afghanistan be able to live in peace and its people be free of war. So that's cool. I want to get there. Well, when I finally got deployed in about October of that year is when I first landed on the ground. It didn't take long at all for me to discover that, holy snap, everything Petraeus had said was a lie. Not some of it. He wasn't exaggerating. He was just full cloth making stuff up. And the more I went out, and by the way, my job required me. I had a couple of different headquarters that I bounced between Kandahar and Bagram, and then I also had smaller elements that I literally went throughout the entire country, everywhere that there was Army brigades. I think 11 of them over the time that over my year there. I went out on talked to the division commanders, brigade commanders, battalion, company commanders, platoon leaders, and guys on patrol point. So, I mean, I literally went everywhere because my job was to find out what these guys needed, like right now that they
Yeah.
don't have, and we can't go through all the long process of the acquisition program, et cetera. So I was supposed to find out what they need to get it to them quickly. So that required me to go to the front lines everywhere. And I could see just the absurdity of what we were doing, and the lies of not just the Petraeus, but even some of the division commanders who, when things happened on the ground there, then they would characterize them in a way to the media that were a flat out lie, that they knew was a lie, that I knew was a lie because I was on the ground. I was talking to the guys doing it. I was on the patrols, and it just infuriated me. And the more, it's one thing, Larry, to you're lying, and just as a professional, it's unethical and
Right.
immoral, whatever, because you're supporting a war that would otherwise probably not be fought if people knew the truth of it. No one would support something that was so self-evidently failing. But when American troops are getting killed as a result, and there was a couple of particular issues that drove me to come in public with all this, as I think we've talked about before, is that one, there was a big operation we did near the Pakistan border that resulted in a lot of Americans getting killed and wounded. One of the bigger casualty producers of the war. It wasn't a huge one, but it was bigger than most. And when I heard the division commander tell the public that this was a painful operation, and I have these little cards that I have with the names of the soldiers that died. I keep it close to my chest, because it's a wound for me. But these guys died for something. What they did meant something, etc. And he calculated what it was. Well, I knew because I had access to classified information, so I can't divulge the details of any of this stuff even now. But I knew that, number one, publicly, because it was out there, we had done an operation, I think it was 9 months earlier in the exact same spot that also had a lot of American and Iraqi casualties, Afghan National Guard casualties. That was a complete disaster. We were supposed to have taken out a Taliban area and then handed it over to the Afghan military to now maintain this location here, so that you move the Taliban back, and then you put the new Afghan government. Then maybe later on you would move further, et cetera, and continue to drive the Taliban out. But
Yeah.
instead, the minute that we left after all this combat operation, the Taliban issued just threats to the Afghan troops that said, if y'all stay, we're going to come kill you. And they ran away. They ran away. All the stuff we'd put in there, all the equipment that we'd give them, they just stripped it dry and ran away. And the Taliban rolled right back in as though no one had ever there. So already we had sacrificed troops for no reason. So now we go back in. But this time, Larry, it was worse because we didn't even pretend we were going to leave the Afghan national troops there. We just had another big operation, killed a bunch of Taliban, probably like 5 to 6 to 1 in terms of how many were killed. I think I want to say it was 14 or 18. I can't remember the exact number that we had killed and wounded on our side. And maybe 100 Taliban killed. So it was 10 to 1 at least, or something
Mhm.
close to that. But then we just got back on our helicopters and left. The Taliban rolled right back in, and it was as though we had never been there. So when you're telling American people that our boys died for something important and it made a difference. It made no difference, and you knew it didn't make a difference,
Right.
and you lied. And so that's when I said, your lies are now costing American troops their lives. And that is just immoral, not just unethical. And then, as it turned out, so I was already getting angry. That was relatively early. And then in that summer, I went on another patrol down in the Kandahar area, in the Arghandab valleys, to be specific, and met some troops down there. And I'll remember the staff sergeant that led the patrol. While we were actually setting up a new forward position near the river, and so there was had been a big firefight the day before, and they'd driven the Taliban out of a building complex. So we were going in the next day to set up machine gun positions and everything else, and that was the new forward position for our side. And I remember him pointing out to a couple of guys over there. He said, see these two? There's two specialists, E4s, and they said these guys are really doing a great job, and really proud of him, because this one kid was in trouble and had done some stuff, but he had made up for it, and took responsibility, and now he's really making something of himself, and all this kind of stuff. And then it wasn't a month later that I'm back at my headquarters going to the chow hall in Bagram, and I see the Stars and Stripes headline, and it just said, this huge headline, it just said, "They're all dead," and there's a picture of a mangled MRAP vehicle, so armored vehicle, and and of course that's like, oh man, here's another one. But then I start reading it, and I realized that all 5 of the people that were killed, because those MRAPs are supposed to take the brunt of this, and it said all 5 had been killed. And then I looked at the names, and it was 2 of those kids. Two of the 5 that were killed were 2 of the kids I had met. That made it now personal. And again, I know that these people are dying for no reason, because,
Right.
and it turned out this way, as soon as their tour was over, that brigade redeployed out, and they withdrew from the positions, and the Taliban rolled right back in. So all of these deaths have no impact on the war at all. We're just throwing the lives away of our men. You can go down the path, Larry, of all the money that we spend and the billions of dollars and all this kind of stuff. Apparently, including $45 million even today, but maybe we'll talk about that later. But that's what was going on then. We lose the money, and we're losing our troops, and then we're lying about the whole thing. And of course, all of this boils down to exactly what I'd been warning about all the way through, that to the 2009, back in 2009, I said, we will lose this war if we don't make some substantive changes. And I chronicled what they were. We didn't make the changes, and then that's exactly what happened in 2021. What a surprise. It's not hard if you're just willing to look at reality on the ground and be honest. But we weren't, and so I was pretty aggravated about that. Went public with it when I came back. The New York Times covered it. I published it in the Armed Forces Journal at the time, and not a very popular person in the.
You weren't well received.
What's that?
You weren't well received.
I wasn't.
Let's
what's not
promote him. He's a great guy.
All right, folks, hold on just a second. We've got something important to share with you. First off, a big thank you for all your incredible support. Our team's been putting in the hours, really working hard to bring you insightful guests, new and improved formats, solid, high-quality analysis every week. Our next goal, hitting that 100,000 subscriber mark and getting that silver button. Let's make it happen together. Every like, comment, share, and subscription truly helps us grow and keep improving. All right then, let's get back to the video.
Yeah, they wanted to probe me to the bottom of the sea, I think. But what wasn't in any of the newspaper articles or anything that came out at the time was that my job after I came back, I was reassigned as a liaison officer between the Rapid Equipping Force and the Army leadership. So I was in the Pentagon, in the office where all the generals are. So if you know anything about the Whistleblower Protection Act, they can't take any action against you if you come forward and make an allegation of some sort and blow the whistle. So they couldn't move me out, but I was like a literal pariah.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one particular time, a full week where no one would speak to me at all, because now that I'm like radioactive, so nobody wants to be seen talking to me in public, and they wouldn't even give me any work to do. So there's nothing for me to liaise between, because no one wanted to even talk to me, and so they made my life as miserable as it can be. And I'll just give you one little example that's just kind of petty, but kind of gives you a sense of it. I'm walking down a corridor one time. Who knows? I was coming back from lunch or something, and it was in the wintertime, and I had one of those jackets that you have with the it's a black jacket, has a zip up with
Yeah.
wear with your Class B uniform, and the zipper was I guess somewhere around here. Well, apparently, according to the exact terms of the Army regulations on clothing, it was supposed to be something like here. So it was, I don't know, three inches or something too low, and this one particular general officer who specifically just seethed every time the name of Daniel Davis was mentioned, saw me, and he just like stopped me, it just dressed me down in one side and down to the other, and said, you're not a professional, and get that uniform back up there according to regular, whatever. So they couldn't do any of this thing, but they did stuff like that to make my life a literal living hell until I was able to get out. About 6 months later, they reassigned me elsewhere in Washington, D.C. So, and then I just stayed there until I retired. So they kind of put me out to pasture, and no one was happier about that than the generals. And right next to that, I was happy about moving out. But
Well,
that's my tale.